Mike, we're at a beautiful state park. This is Blakeley, and for my viewers, where are we geographically located?
You're in Baldwin County, Alabama, just across the bay from Mobile, in the Mobile-Tensas Delta.
Mm-hmm. We are in a beautiful nature center. This is an excellent building, and I'm sure this is used a lot for a lot of events. But let's talk a little bit about Blakeley itself. How did it come about?
Blakeley was established by the state legislature as an independent historical park in 1981, and our mission is to preserve and interpret the National Register site of historic Blakeley.
Mm-hmm. And how much acreage do we have here? There's plenty of walking trails.
Blakeley has about 2,100 acres that is publicly accessible, or for the most part publicly accessible. It's part of the largest National Register site east of the Mississippi River.
Mm-hmm. We have a lot of things here. We have camping, we have nature trails, and you have excursions out into the Mobile River. Let's talk about these things. Tell us what's so great about Blakeley.
Well, Blakeley has a rich history, first of all. This is the site of one of the largest Civil War battles in Alabama, one of the best preserved Civil War battlefields in the nation, the Battle of Fort Blakeley that was fought here on April 9th, 1865, which was part of the campaign for Mobile, ultimately led to the Union capturing the city of Mobile. It's also the site of the historic town of Blakeley, which was founded when Alabama was part of the Mississippi Territories before Alabama became a state. And of course it was a town in the early days of Alabama's statehood, was one of the largest in the state for a while, rivaled Mobile, was almost as large as Mobile. We also have the site of some woodland era occupation of Native Americans that were here going back thousands of years ago. We have the site of a colonial era farmstead in the 1700s when this was still colonial territory. And then we also have the site of an Appalachian Indian town site in the historic period as part of the colonial wars in Florida. Those Appalachians had come here and established a village here. So we have layers of history going back thousands of years, several occupations, and everywhere you look there's a historical part of the park to explore.
It's a park that is nestled. It's not like on a highway. You really don't, unless you know where it is, you might not see it, although you do have enough signs up to show you where to go. But I noticed a lot of people come in for walking, great walking trails. Tell us about those.
Well, we've got a network of hiking and walking trails throughout the park. So I think on the order of 11 or 12 miles of hiking is what you'll find in the park, and almost all of the trails intersect with other trails, so they're not segregated in different areas of the park. If you get on any one trail, chances are you'll be able to connect to a network of trails to get you to another area of the park. So you'll find those scattered throughout the property.
Mm-hmm. And of course you've got maps that tell you where you're going or where you are in case you need the facilities, yes, which are around.
Yeah, we do have some areas where we've got restrooms, we've got campgrounds. There are different areas of the park where we hold events and they're more publicly accessible. We've got an outdoor pavilion in one area of the park and some picnic tables in other areas. So all of these trails, the landmarks on those trails will be in those more publicly accessible areas.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed, of course, I look around and I say, gee, this seems like a day-use park. A lot of people come in from the surrounding area to do their walking and hiking and whatever they're doing here. But then you throw in the RV area and the primitive campground, and you actually have people that could come for a number of days to do from another area and enjoy the facilities and the walking, and then go back to the campsite.
We do. We've got an RV campground with underground utilities. We've got a primitive campground. We have, of course, as I mentioned, all these miles of walking trails. We do allow horseback riding. People come in to walk, hike, jog, and we've got a place for them to stay if they'd like to explore the park in several days' time, which will take you several days to see everything. And we have places for them to stay if they're interested in that.
Mm-hmm. And now I want to talk a little bit about the RV campground, because it is well secluded and you're not on top of each other. I know a lot of people think, well, you know, you're going to be bumping up against the other camper. That's not the case.
No, our campground is laid out so that each site is a pull-through and each one is secluded. There is a little bit of screening of natural vegetation that between each site. So although you might be very close to your neighbor, you won't necessarily see your neighbor. And that's one of the things that makes our RV campground particularly attractive.
I like the primitive as well, because people still like to go camping with a tent. And you've provided areas for them as well.
Yeah, our primitive campground, the Harper Campground, is designed in the same way that the RV campground is, in that each site has its own specific area. And although you might be close to a neighbor, each site is secluded enough that you have that sense that you're there by yourself.
And what's really great is the fact that the tent campers are not next to the 50-foot campers, the big rigs.
Yeah. The RV campground and the primitive campground are in two different areas of the park, separated by approximately a 3/4 mile long drive, and so they're in very different areas of the park.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk a little bit about the other historical site you have here, and that is the Confederate battlefield.
The battlefield here at Blakeley is one of the best preserved in the nation. We have miles. Literally miles of earthwork that were part of the Confederate fortification that is known as Fort Blakeley, and then parallel Union trenches as they were approaching Blakeley during the siege of this location during the Civil War. So we've got rifle pits, entrenchments, earthen redoubts, artillery emplacements, command centers, a wide variety of earthen fortifications throughout the park. That the most visible portion of all that is what we call the battlefield, which is the most cleared area where some of the most vicious fighting took place, where you can see the Union lines, literally walk from the Union lines to the Confederate lines where that last charge took place. But I like to help people understand when they're here that the battlefield truly extends miles in each direction. And that charge that took place on April 9th, 1865, took place all along those lines. A lot of the battlefield would have been cleared then, and it would have looked a little bit different. You get a sense of it when you're on the battlefield portion of the park, but it's only a small portion of it.
I noticed driving through the park, you also have certain sites where there might be a cannon and some signage.
Yes, we do have some signage right now. Most of our touring is done via a handout where you can have your own personal tour of the battlefield, and it will point out each location that's significant in the way that the battle developed to kind of orient you. You can do it walking or driving. And in the future, we are looking at having more touring options via your cell phone or via historical signage, and adding to our existing tour route.
Got to talk about the Delta Explorer. Wow, a trip onto the river is so unique because it shows you that perspective from the river view rather than the land view.
Yeah, the tour boat is one of our biggest attractions. We run the boat for various types of cruises for most of the year. One of our standard cruises is what we call a Delta cruise, where we highlight some of the wildlife in the Delta. It's about a 2-hour excursion from our port back to Blakeley. And then we also do a Port of Mobile State Docks cruise. That's about 3 hours, and we literally go from here, across the Delta, down through the Mobile River, right through downtown Mobile. You get to see all that's happening in one of the largest active ports in the United States, where they're building modern warships and unloading cargo containers from China and everywhere else, and see what's going on there, and then bring you back up to Blakeley. We also look at doing some other cruises from time to time. We are interested in doing a lunch cruise to take you to one of the seafood restaurants on the causeway and coming back to the park. We work with some local historians who have written some things about the history of the region, have them do some special narrated tours that talk about the wildlife and the history on these rivers. So that boat is available for charter, but we run it on a regular schedule you'll find on our website.
Mm-hmm. And that's an important thing. I want to point out about your website. Even though we call it a state park, you will not really find it on the Alabama State Park listing. It is a historic park, so it has its own designation.
Yeah, we are a historical park. We are part of the state of Alabama, but we were created to administer the Blakeley National Register site, so we are not part of the natural heritage parks that you'll find running through the Conservation Department. You'll have to go to our site, blakeleypark.com, for information. There's several of us in the state that each administer our own specific historical assets. So Blakeley is a part of that, part of the state, but not part of the Natural Heritage Park system.